Welcome to this audiobook, a simple and clear guide into the hidden world of dark psychology. In the chapters ahead, you will discover how the human mind can be influenced without noticing, through words, emotions, and subtle behaviors that quietly shape decisions. This book is not meant to create fear, but to open your eyes to the invisible patterns that exist around you every day. As you listen, you will learn why manipulation works, how emotional weaknesses are exploited, and what signs reveal when someone is trying to control your thoughts or feelings. You will understand the psychology behind influence, the masks people wear, and the emotional traps that make manipulation so powerful. More importantly, you will gain the tools to protect yourself, stay aware, and build stronger boundaries. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming chapters and future audiobooks. Your support helps this knowledge reach more people who need it, and it keeps this journey going. Chapter 1: What is dark psychology? Dark psychology is the study of how human behavior, thoughts, and emotions can be influenced, shaped, or controlled in subtle and often harmful ways. It explores the hidden side of the mind, where intentions are not always kind, and where people may use psychological tools to gain power over others. While the term sounds dramatic, it simply describes the techniques some individuals use to manipulate or deceive without being noticed. The roots of dark psychology go back to early studies of behavior, persuasion, and human vulnerability. For generations, thinkers tried to understand why people obey authority, why they trust lies, and why emotions can override logic. Over time, these observations formed a clearer picture: humans can be guided into almost any direction if the right emotional buttons are pressed. This knowledge can be used for good or for harm. In everyday life, dark psychology appears in quiet, ordinary ways. It can be the friend who twists your words to make you doubt yourself, the partner who uses guilt to control your decisions, or the stranger online who plays with emotions to gain trust. These behaviors are not always obvious. They happen slowly, through patterns that build over time, making them harder to recognize until damage is done. Understanding this field does not mean becoming suspicious of everyone. Instead, it helps you see the difference between healthy influence and harmful manipulation. Influence is natural, we all persuade and guide each other. But dark psychology focuses on influence that takes away your freedom, weakens your confidence, or shapes your choices without your permission. At its core, dark psychology explains how manipulation works, through emotions like fear, love, shame, and the desire to be accepted. When someone knows how to trigger these feelings, they can steer your behavior without ever raising their voice. The power lies in subtle words, small actions, and emotional pressure that bypass your awareness. This chapter is the foundation for everything that comes next. By understanding what dark psychology truly is, and how deeply it can affect your life, you begin to build the awareness necessary to protect yourself. The goal is not to create fear, but clarity, a calm understanding of how the mind can be influenced, and how you can stay in control of your own inner world. Chapter 2: How Psychological Manipulation Works. Psychological manipulation works by guiding someone's thoughts or actions without their awareness. Instead of using force, manipulators rely on emotion, confusion, and subtle influence. Their goal is to make you react automatically, not thoughtfully. When this happens, you may feel as if the decision was your own, even though it was gently shaped by someone else's intentions. The first tool of manipulation is language. Words can be used to comfort, confuse, or pressure. A manipulator may speak in a way that sounds caring, but is designed to make you doubt yourself. They might say things that appear harmless, yet push you toward the conclusion they want. Through tone, timing, and carefully chosen phrases, they can shift your feelings without raising suspicion. Body language and signals also play a powerful role. A simple sigh, a disappointed look, or an exaggerated smile can create emotional reactions, even when no words are spoken. Manipulators understand how sensitive people are to nonverbal cues. They use these signals to guilt you, to make you feel responsible for their emotions, or to push you into comforting them, even when you did nothing wrong. Situations and environments can also be shaped for manipulation. A person might confront you when you are tired, stressed, or alone, knowing you are more vulnerable. They may create scenarios that confuse you, overwhelm you, or make you feel dependent on their guidance. In these moments, your defenses weaken, and their influence grows stronger. At the heart of psychological manipulation is emotional exploitation. Manipulators search for your fears, your hopes, your insecurities, and your desires. Once they find these emotional points, they use them as levers, small pressures that create big reactions. You may feel guilt when they need control, fear when they want obedience, or affection when they want loyalty. Understanding how manipulation works is the first step to resisting it. Once you recognize the subtle shifts in tone, the emotional pressure, the carefully crafted situations, and the hidden intentions behind certain behaviors, you begin to regain your power. Awareness turns the invisible into the visible, and what once controlled you becomes something you can clearly see and calmly step away from. Chapter 3: Why Humans Are Easy to Control. Humans are naturally social beings, and this alone makes us open to influence. We want to belong, to be accepted, and to feel safe within a group. This deep need has been part of our nature for thousands of years. Because of it, people often change their behavior, opinions, or decisions just to avoid rejection. Manipulators understand this instinct and use it to guide others without resistance. Fear is another powerful doorway into the human mind. Whether it is fear of losing someone, fear of failure, or fear of being judged, these emotions can cloud judgment. When people are afraid, they look for someone who seems confident or in control. A manipulator steps in at that moment, offering solutions or comfort only to gain influence over the person seeking safety. Fear weakens clarity, and unclear minds are easier to direct. Humans also have a natural hunger for love and connection. When someone offers affection, understanding, or attention, it creates trust. Manipulators often begin by giving these things generously. They make the person feel special, valued, and seen. But once that emotional bond is established, they start shaping behavior, knowing the other person does not want to lose the connection. The desire for love becomes a tool in the wrong hands. Another weakness lies in our respect for authority. Since childhood, we are taught to listen to parents, teachers, leaders, and experts. This conditioning continues into adulthood. When someone appears confident, knowledgeable, or superior in some way, people tend to follow them without questioning. Manipulators exploit this by projecting certainty and power, even when they are wrong or deceptive. Humans also seek simplicity and comfort. The brain prefers the easy choice over the hard one. Because of this, when someone else offers to think, decide, or lead, people often follow to avoid mental effort. A manipulator provides answers, removing confusion but gaining control. The more a person relies on this guidance, the deeper the influence becomes. In the end, humans are not weak, just human. Our emotions, hopes, and fears make us open to connection, which is a beautiful thing. But these same qualities can be used against us when we are not aware. Understanding why manipulation works allows us to protect ourselves, to stay conscious of our choices, and to keep control of our minds no matter who tries to influence them. Before we continue the book, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Your support helps us bring you more amazing audiobooks every week. Chapter 4: Methods of Mind Control. Mind control does not always look dramatic or obvious. Most of the time, it works quietly in the background. One of the simplest techniques is repetition. When an idea is repeated again and again, the brain begins to accept it as normal or even true. Advertisers use this, politicians use it, and manipulators use it too. The more you hear something, the less you question it. Repetition gently shapes beliefs without needing force. Another subtle tool is hidden persuasion. This is when someone leads you to a conclusion without directly telling you what to think. They ask guiding questions, use carefully chosen words, or create situations that push you toward their desired outcome. You feel like the decision is yours, but the path was designed for you. Hidden persuasion is powerful because it feels natural and harmless. Guilt is also a common method used to control others. People who manipulate often make you feel responsible for their emotions, problems, or disappointments. They say things like "if you really cared," or "I guess I'm not important to you." These phrases plant guilt in your mind, pushing you to act in ways that benefit them. When guilt becomes a habit, it becomes easy for the manipulator to shape your behavior. Social pressure is another strong force. Humans naturally follow the group to avoid standing out or being judged. Manipulators take advantage of this by creating an illusion that everyone agrees or everyone does it. When people think they might be the only one resisting, they often give in. Social pressure can silence instincts, even when something feels wrong. Some manipulators also use emotional confusion. They mix kindness with criticism, attention with distance, or praise with blame. This inconsistency keeps the mind unstable, always trying to regain approval. When a person becomes emotionally dependent on someone's reactions, it becomes easy to control their thoughts and actions. The uncertainty itself becomes a tool of manipulation. In reality, these techniques work because they target natural human tendencies, our desire to belong, to be good, to be accepted. By understanding how these methods function, you can recognize them the moment they appear. Awareness turns invisible chains into visible ones, and once you can see them, they lose their power. Chapter 5: The Art of Planting Doubt and Turning Strength into Weakness. One of the most subtle and dangerous tools in dark psychology is the ability to make someone doubt themselves. This process does not happen suddenly, it begins slowly, with small comments or questions that seem harmless at first. A manipulator might say, "Are you sure?" or "You always forget things," planting tiny seeds of doubt. Over time, these seeds grow, and the person starts questioning their own memory, judgment, or abilities. Once doubt takes root, confidence begins to weaken. Even strong and capable individuals can start depending on the manipulator for approval or direction. This shift happens quietly. When someone repeatedly hears that they are wrong, too emotional, or not thinking clearly, they may start believing it. The manipulator uses this new insecurity as a way to gain more influence, making the victim rely on them instead of trusting their own mind. Another technique is twisting strengths into weaknesses. For example, if someone is kind, the manipulator might say they are too soft. If someone is independent, they may be called selfish. If someone is confident, they might be accused of being arrogant. By redefining strengths as flaws, the manipulator reshapes the victim's self-image. This confusion makes it harder for the victim to recognize their real value. Manipulators also use selective praise to create emotional imbalance. They compliment only when it benefits them, then criticize sharply when the victim shows independence or confidence. This unpredictable pattern makes the victim constantly question themselves: did I do something wrong? Why did their attitude change? The emotional instability opens the door for deeper psychological control. Guilt is another powerful tool in this process. By making the victim feel responsible for imagined mistakes or emotional reactions, manipulators reinforce the idea that the victim is flawed. Even when the victim tries to set boundaries, the manipulator may say things like "you're overreacting," "you're too sensitive," or "you always make things difficult." These phrases attack the victim's sense of reality and push them into self-doubt. In the end, planting doubt is about breaking inner stability. When someone loses trust in their own thoughts and feelings, they become easier to influence. The good news is that awareness is the first step toward protection. When you understand how these techniques work, you can see the signs early, stop the cycle of doubt, and reclaim your confidence before it is taken from you. Chapter 6: How Emotions Get Hacked. Emotions are one of the most powerful forces inside the human mind, and manipulators understand this better than most people. Instead of attacking someone directly, they learn how to slip through emotional gaps, moments of fear, love, guilt, or loneliness. When someone is emotionally open or vulnerable, their defenses become weaker, making it easier for others to influence their thoughts and actions without resistance. Love is one of the main doors manipulators use. When someone truly cares about a person, they naturally want to trust, understand, and support them. A manipulator takes advantage of this by using affection as a weapon, giving attention when it serves their goal and withdrawing it when they want control. This creates emotional confusion. The victim tries harder to keep the relationship stable, not realizing that this effort is exactly what gives the manipulator more power. Fear is another tool used to break emotional defenses. This fear doesn't always look dramatic, sometimes it is subtle. It might be fear of losing the relationship, fear of angering someone, or fear of being abandoned. Manipulators feed these fears with comments like, "No one else will understand you," or "without me, you'd fall apart." These phrases are designed to make the victim feel small and dependent, giving the manipulator a stronger position. Guilt is perhaps the strongest emotional weapon. A manipulator knows how to trigger guilt even when the victim did nothing wrong. They might say, "I wouldn't act this way if you listened," or "you're making me feel this," turning their behavior into the victim's responsibility. Over time, the victim begins apologizing for things they didn't do, trying to fix problems they didn't cause. This emotional imbalance creates a perfect environment for control. Another way emotions are hacked is through sudden mood changes. Manipulators may switch from kindness to coldness, or from calm to anger without warning. These emotional shifts shock the victim, making them feel unsafe and unsure. When someone constantly worries about another person's reactions, they stop thinking clearly and start reacting emotionally, exactly what the manipulator wants. In the end, emotional hacking works because it targets the softest parts of the human mind. But understanding these methods creates strength. When you can recognize how love, fear, and guilt are being used against you, you can rebuild your emotional boundaries, protect your heart, and regain your sense of stability. Before we continue the book, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Your support helps us bring you more amazing audiobooks every week. Chapter 7: The Equation of Emotional Addiction and Unhealthy Attachment. Emotional addiction begins quietly. It rarely starts with control or fear. Instead, it starts with attention, warmth, and a feeling of being understood. Manipulators often create a strong emotional bond early on by giving the victim what they crave most: care, validation, and a sense of belonging. This early honeymoon phase becomes the seed of emotional dependence, making the victim feel that this person is special and irreplaceable. As time passes, the relationship shifts. The warmth becomes inconsistent, sometimes intense, other times cold and distant. These emotional highs and lows create a powerful psychological cycle known as intermittent reinforcement. When affection is given randomly, it becomes more addictive. The victim keeps waiting for the next moment of kindness, believing that if they try harder, things will return to how they were at the beginning. This cycle traps them emotionally, even when the relationship becomes painful. Manipulators understand this cycle well. They use it to weaken confidence and increase dependence. After every hurtful action, they may give small signs of affection, a message, a compliment, a moment of softness. These tiny rewards keep the emotional addiction alive. The victim clings to these crumbs of kindness, thinking they mean progress, when in reality they are tools to reset the cycle. Unhealthy attachment also grows through isolation. Manipulators often encourage the victim to distance themselves from friends, family, or outside support. They may do this subtly, saying things like, "No one understands you the way I do," or "Others are jealous of what we have." Over time, the victim begins to rely solely on the manipulator for emotional connection, making it even harder to walk away. Another element of emotional addiction is self-blame. Victims often believe that the problems in the relationship are their own fault. They think, if I change, things will get better, or maybe I'm the reason they're upset. This belief strengthens the attachment because the victim becomes focused on fixing the relationship instead of leaving it. Meanwhile, the manipulator benefits by keeping control without taking responsibility. Ultimately, emotional addiction forces people to stay in relationships that drain them. They hold on to hope, memories, and the dream of what the relationship could be, not what it actually is. Understanding this pattern is the first step to breaking free. When someone learns to see the cycle clearly, they can begin to rebuild their strength, reconnect with themselves, and choose a healthier path forward. Chapter 8: Psychological Masks. The face you see and the truth behind it. Manipulators rarely show their true intentions. Instead, they present a carefully crafted version of themselves, a mask designed to win trust, appear harmless, or seem charming. This outer image is often so polished that most people never question it. They believe they are dealing with a kind, confident, or honest person, even when the reality is very different. Behind this mask lies the real personality, one that the manipulator works hard to hide. It may be insecure, controlling, jealous, or power-seeking. This hidden self fears being exposed, so it stays in the shadows. The more fragile it is, the stronger and more convincing the mask becomes. The manipulator depends on this disguise to move through life without being confronted. These psychological masks are not always obvious. A manipulator may act generous while hiding resentment, or appear calm while feeling deeply threatened. They might present themselves as victims to gain sympathy, or as heroes to gain admiration. Each version serves a purpose, and each one is used at the exact moment it provides the most advantage. The danger lies in how easily these masks blend into everyday life. People often judge others based on what they see in front of them, assuming the outer behavior reflects the inner truth. But with manipulators, this connection does not exist. What you see is a performance, a role chosen to influence how you think, feel, and react. Learning to recognize these masks is not about becoming suspicious of everyone. It is about understanding that some individuals use emotional disguises as tools. When you learn to look beyond the surface, paying attention to patterns, inconsistencies, and hidden intentions, you start to see what the mask is meant to protect. You begin to notice the truth behind the illusion. With awareness, you regain your power. The more clearly you understand the difference between the public face and the private truth, the less likely you are to fall into emotional traps. You learn to trust actions over words, patterns over promises, and authenticity over performance. And when the mask finally cracks, as it always does, you are ready to walk away with clarity and confidence. Chapter 9: The Signs that Reveal Manipulators. Manipulators often believe they are invisible, but their behavior leaves small traces that can be noticed once you know what to look for. One of the clearest signs is inconsistency. Their words and actions rarely match. They may promise something with confidence, only to behave in a completely different way later. This gap between what they say and what they do is not accidental, it is part of how they control situations. Another sign is exaggerated emotional reactions. Manipulators often create dramatic expressions of sadness, anger, or affection to influence your decisions. These emotions feel slightly unnatural, as if they are performed rather than truly felt. They appear at convenient moments, when the manipulator wants sympathy, forgiveness, or compliance. Their reactions may be loud or subtle, but they always feel strangely timed. You may also notice that manipulators use confusing or misleading language. They avoid giving direct answers to simple questions. Instead, they use vague explanations, half-truths, and shifting stories. They might twist your words, bring up unrelated topics, or pretend to misunderstand you. This creates uncertainty, making you question your memory or judgment, an effect they rely on to gain control. Another common sign is how quickly they change their tone. In one moment, they may act kind and caring, in the next, distant or irritated. These sudden shifts keep you emotionally unbalanced, unsure of what version of them you will face next. This unpredictability is intentional. It keeps you focused on maintaining peace rather than noticing their manipulation. Pay attention also to how they treat boundaries. Manipulators often push limits in small ways. They may ignore your requests, dismiss your feelings, or make decisions on your behalf without asking. When confronted, they minimize the issue or turn it into a joke. This pattern slowly erodes your confidence and weakens your ability to stand your ground. Recognizing these signs does not mean assuming everyone is a manipulator. It simply gives you the tools to protect yourself. When you begin to see these patterns clearly, the manipulator's influence fades. You become more centered, more observant, and more capable of walking away from relationships built on control rather than respect. Before we continue the book, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Your support helps us bring you more amazing audiobooks every week. Chapter 10: How to Regain Control of Your Life. Regaining control of your life begins with awareness. You cannot change what you do not see, and many people live under the influence of others without realizing it. The first step is to pause, observe your feelings, and notice the patterns around you. Ask yourself simple questions. Why do I feel pressured? Why do I doubt myself? Whose voice is guiding my choices? This gentle self-reflection opens a door to clarity. Once you understand what affects you, the next step is rebuilding your sense of self. This means reconnecting with your values, your needs, and your inner voice. Spend time doing things that make you feel grounded, writing, walking, or sitting quietly with your thoughts. When your mind becomes calm, you can hear yourself again. This inner stability is the foundation of real freedom. Setting boundaries is another essential tool. Boundaries protect your mental and emotional space. They are not walls, they are doors that you control. A healthy boundary can be as simple as saying no without guilt or taking time for yourself when you need it. At first, boundaries may feel uncomfortable if you are used to pleasing others, but over time, they become a natural part of your strength. Detaching from toxic influences is also important. Not everyone deserves access to your emotions or your energy. If someone repeatedly drains you, confuses you, or disrespects you, distance may be the healthiest choice. Detachment does not mean anger, it means choosing peace. It is an act of protection, not punishment. Another powerful tool is building a support system. Healing becomes easier when you share your thoughts with people who truly listen. Choose those who respect your feelings and encourage your growth. Even one supportive person can make a big difference. If needed, seeking professional guidance can also provide structure and strategies to strengthen your emotional well-being. Finally, remember that regaining control is not a single moment, it is a journey. Every small step, every boundary, every moment of awareness brings you closer to the life you deserve. With patience and gentle persistence, you can break away from toxic patterns and rebuild a life shaped by your choices, not someone else's influence. Chapter 11: How to Resist Dark Psychological Tactics. Resisting dark psychological tactics begins with awareness. When you understand how manipulation works, it becomes much harder for anyone to influence you without your permission. Pay attention to how people speak to you, how they make you feel, and whether their words match their actions. Simply noticing these patterns creates a mental shield that protects your mind from hidden influence. Strengthening your confidence is another powerful defense. People with strong self-esteem are harder to control because they trust their own judgment. Confidence is not about being loud or aggressive, it is about believing that your thoughts and feelings matter. You can build this inner strength by acknowledging your achievements, speaking kindly to yourself, and refusing to let others define your worth. Learning to say no is one of the most important skills in resisting manipulation. Many people struggle with this because they fear disappointment, conflict, or rejection. But saying no does not make you selfish, it makes you honest and healthy. A clear, calm no can stop manipulation before it begins. You do not need to explain your reasons. Your boundaries are valid simply because they exist. Another key strategy is emotional grounding. When your emotions are stable, it becomes much harder for others to push you into fear, guilt, or confusion. Techniques like deep breathing, pausing before reacting, or stepping away from stressful situations help you stay centered. When you control your emotions, no one else can use them against you. Remaining independent in your thinking is also essential. Manipulators often try to limit your perspective or isolate you from other opinions. Stay open to learning, ask questions, and seek information from reliable sources. The more knowledge you have, the less power others have to twist your reality or make you doubt your own judgment. Finally, remember that resistance is a continuous practice. You don't need to be perfect, you only need to stay aware, stay grounded, and protect your personal boundaries. With time, these skills become second nature. You will begin to see manipulation from far away, and instead of falling into it, you will walk forward with strength, clarity, and confidence. Chapter 12: Using the Power of Influence for Good. Influence, by itself, is not something negative. It becomes harmful only when used to control or limit others. In reality, Influence is a natural part of human interaction. Every word you say, every action you take, and every choice you make can affect the people around you. When used with intention and kindness, this power becomes a tool for creating positive change instead of causing harm. Healthy influence begins with honesty. When your words match your actions, people learn to trust you. This trust becomes a foundation for meaningful relationships built on respect rather than pressure. You can inspire others not by forcing your ideas on them, but by living in a way that reflects your values. True influence grows when people feel safe and understood, not when they feel controlled. Another way to use influence positively is by encouraging growth in others. You can support someone by helping them see their potential, offering guidance without judgment, and celebrating their achievements. A simple compliment, a patient conversation, or a supportive gesture can make a bigger difference than you realize. Positive influence lifts people up instead of breaking them down. Influence can also inspire change on a larger scale. When you act with integrity, kindness, and clarity, others naturally follow your example. You become a source of motivation for those who feel lost or unsure. Your calmness may help someone find balance. Your discipline may encourage someone to improve their habits. Positive energy spreads, it inspires people to become better versions of themselves. Using influence for good also means respecting boundaries. Support should never become pressure. Inspiration should never become control. When you allow others to choose freely, your influence becomes pure and empowering. People grow stronger not because you lead them, but because you help them discover their own path. In the end, this chapter reminds us that influence is a gift. You can use it to heal, to guide, and to bring light into someone's life. When you choose kindness over control and understanding over manipulation, your presence becomes a force for good in the world. And the more you practice positive influence, the more you help create relationships and a life built on trust, respect, and genuine connection.